Cozy Babe, and welcome back to the Cozy Babes Club podcast. I'm your host, Kloee Taylor, and this new moon that we have coming up, this is like the perfect video and the perfect time for you to receive this because you can put this into action literally within the coming days. The new moon, if you're watching this as soon as this episode goes live, the new moon is actually tomorrow, so you have a little bit of time to prep, but you can literally use this method that I'm going to show you today at any point in time. I have used this on a new moon. I've used it in the middle of the month. I've used it on a full moon. It doesn't necessarily matter the when. It's that the method works. So if you got from the title what we're talking about today, I would hope. But I wanted to truly emphasize that no matter when you come across this video, it doesn't matter. The only reason that I bring it up for the new moon is that this new moon coming up is going to be in the sign of Virgo. And Virgo, the ruling planet of Virgo is Mercury. So using mercurial-like tools, which this is going to be in the form of writing and speaking today, using mercurial-like tools to manifest your desired reality is something that is going to work the best. So like if you want to use that, make sure that you do, but know that the new moon, it doesn't matter when. Like this can work and happen and literally should make huge shifts and changes in your life at any point in time. So I wanted to get that out of the way first. And I wanted to mention another thing that I feel like I don't hear enough people say, but I think it's becoming more common knowledge, just kind of as a disclaimer, because we are going to be talking about a manifestation method today. I want to mention that manifestation, you've heard me say it once, you've heard me say it twice, you're probably going to hear me say it 1,000 times. Manifestation is something that you don't turn off. It is always, always, always active in your life. And it's whether you're being intentional about it or not, like that doesn't necessarily matter. The thoughts, actions, and what your day-to-day life is like consistently continues to manifest your future. And this can be a really great thing if you think about how like, oh, all of the consistent action you're putting in is really in alignment for you and you're being really intentional, then awesome. You're going to pull really great things into your life from the quantum field. However, if you feel like you're living on autopilot and you're stuck in a rut or you're doing the same thing over and over again, but not doing it intentionally, this can also be kind of a harrowing thought because it's like, ah, shit. I'm responsible for my life. I'm responsible for my actions. And I just want to say at the top of this episode that single-handedly for myself, now please make room for nuance always in your life, what you're going through, where you are. But in my own life, I can tell you from multiple experiences that when I come down to the simple thought and practice of I am responsible for where my life is right now and what I'm getting out of life, I am able to always make changes. Now, this is not me saying that your chronic illness is your fault. This is not me saying that the trauma that's been dealt to you is your fault. It's not that we are doing victim blaming because that's gross. It's not that everything that has ever happened for you in your life is your fault. It's that when you become aware, it is your responsibility on what you will do with that. And sometimes you are dealt a really crappy hand and you have to decide through your words, deeds, actions, thoughts, alignment, and trusting yourself and building that in yourself on what you're going to do with it. So this is like, to me, this is like the foundation of manifestation, really. It's the foundation because it's not just about sitting back on your couch and singing Kumbaya and hoping that the universe is going to bring you what you want. That's part of it, but it's also how you are actually practicing it. How are you putting it into action? How are you thinking about things? Can you change that? I think a lot of times when we talk about manifestation, law of attraction, people put it in such a woo category that like, oh, your thoughts create your reality. But it's not just woo, it's literally science. It's literally science, and it's also like psychology. What you think about, you continue to perpetuate. And the thing I always bring up when I mention this is that we have something in our mind called the reticular activating system, or the RAS. And the RAS is the part of our brain that helps us to filter out stimuli to actually like help us. So basically, if you have a belief about something, your reticular activating system will, in your brain, basically emphasize or de-emphasize things. So if you have a belief that the world is terrible, let's say, you are going to consistently perpetuate noticing everywhere that you see that the world is terrible. You're going to notice all of the negative things that happen. You're going to take more notice of the bad things. If you have a belief in your mind that the world is wonderful, you're awestruck by it, it's beautiful, you're going to notice more of the beauty. It literally is how we are wired. And the beautiful thing about this is you can change it. You can decide to change it at any point in time. And the biggest way, in my experience, to do that is to start to shift the way that you think. And so that's like a whole other lesson for a whole other time. We're not covering that today, like the self-concept and how to actually change your thoughts. I feel like we kind of already have to some degree in previous episodes. The main thing that I want to talk about today is this method that you can use when you've gotten to the place where you're wanting to be more intentional and you're wanting to kind of pack a punch towards your manifestations and call them in. And like I said, we don't ever turn manifestation off, okay? But being intentional and kind of having like a brand new start, or having this like time set aside to get really radically clear on what it is that you are calling in, it helps like leaps and bounds. You will literally make a quantum jump. You will make an energy jump if you execute this the way that I'm going to tell you today. So this takes 3 parts. And the first thing that you have to do is define. And I feel like this is actually something that so many people get so caught up on. This is, to me, like the hardest part of the whole thing, is defining what you actually want. I myself still struggle with this from time to time. Let me give you a perfect example. So when I say define, what I'm saying is defining is just, what is it that you want? If somebody asked you today, if money was no object, if you were completely financially taken care of, you knew that the rest of your life was going to be paid for, what would you do with your time? What would you do with yourself, your time? What would your day-to-day look like? How would you behave? Those are the kinds of questions that actually get some results. I can't even tell you how many times I have asked that question to somebody in my life and they don't know. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? The one thing about, and that's not like shade on anybody in my life, I recognize that so many people are not even taught to ask themselves that question because it's big brain thinking. And most of us are not asked to, not like, most of us are so caught up in the daily shuffle and how we're going to make money, how we're going to pay our bills, how we're going to clean up the house, take care of the dog and the cat. You know, a lot of us don't have those like huge questions to answer because we're just not even like conditioned to think about it. So don't blame yourself if you've never thought about it. But I've asked that question to so many people in my life, and most people right off the handle do not always have an answer unless they've thought about it, which I don't know that I've ever met another person. Actually, there is like one person I can think of that I've asked that question to and I felt like they genuinely had an answer. But most people don't think about that. So don't judge yourself if you're not there or you think about it. Maybe you're also in a place in your life right now where you haven't considered it for a while because you've been running on autopilot and that's been getting you through the day. There's no shame in that. I myself fall prey to this. I am a human being. You are also a human being. Like it's a very human thing. But I myself go through periods of this where I'll ask myself that question in my journal. And I've done this recently, actually. I ask myself that question in my journal, and then I start writing out all the things I would do for other people, or like I start writing out all this stuff in like what I think will make me a good person. And that's like another trap we all fall into. What did I actually put down that was just for Kloee Taylor? And sometimes that's like sad because you also have to take stock of like where you are in your life in that moment. But this is literally step 1, is just to define what is it that you would actually like to call into your life. Who would you be if what I said before was all true for you? Who would you be? How would you spend your time? What would you do? What would a day in your life be like? Especially, I find that asking financial questions tends to get people thinking, because I feel like most people, it's like one of 2 things. You struggle with money or you struggle with relationships. And so you could also ask yourself, like, if all the love in the world was available to you, which it is, if all of the love in the world was currently in your life and you were feeling it, you can take it from that lens too. Who would you be? How would you behave? So this kind of gets you to the place of defining what you want. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, I want to run this nonprofit. That's a great thing if that's what you want to do. It could also be that you want a designer bag. It could be that you want a certain kind of car, a certain kind of home, a certain kind of relationship, so many children, it can be anything. The important part is that you don't judge this part of your process. The important part is that when you're doing this, you're not judging what it is that you want, and recognize that all desires, the only thing a desire is supposed to do for you. This is why I don't really agree with like meditative practices where you're meant to like transcend the human experience. I think it was Ram Dass who said it. We're not here to transcend the human experience. We are inherently human, and we're supposed to exist in whatever that means. So if having a desire for a designer bag is inherently human of you, it's okay to want that. It's also okay to want a family or a certain kind of relationship or a home or a car or a job, or to feel a certain type of way in your day to day. That's like really important when you are defining, is make sure you include how you want to feel. Because if you just decide that you want all this stuff and then you manifest all the stuff, because you will, but you don't feel different like you think that that was going to give you, like, I have my own experience with this in my own life where I manifested this home. I'll give you the short version of the story. I manifested this home, which we're going to talk more about in this episode. And I thought that like I was going to be a different person when I got into my waterfront home. And I literally walked into this room that I'm sitting in right now and sobbed like a baby, because I was like, oh shit, I actually have to work on myself. I actually have to put in work and like be the person that I want to be. Having the home actually didn't do that for me. And that's something that you'll come up against if you're not intentionally asking yourself, how do you want to feel in your day-to-day life, and going after the desires and goals that will actually give that to you, as well as doing the work alongside it. But again, that's a topic for another day as well. The point is, in this exercise, we're just defining. We're just defining what we want without shame, without guilt, and just letting yourself explore. So I recommend doing this on a piece of paper. Now, step number 2 is you need to decide. So this part can be tricky, but I'm going to navigate you through it so that you don't fall into any pitfalls, okay? When you decide that whatever it is that you want, you're allowed to have. So this is where we really start to undo any like limiting beliefs or thoughts that we have around what it is that we actually want. So let's say, for example, I'm going to keep going with manifesting a home because if y'all have watched the last 2 episodes, we've covered that pretty extensively. I'm currently in the process of manifesting my next home. And this is a practice that I did to manifest this home. So I feel like I've got like lots of good examples for you. But when I decided that I wanted to get into this home, specifically the one that I currently live in, I had to sit with a lot of uncomfortable feelings that came up immediately that were like, oh, well, you can't have that house because your credit's shit. And you can't have the house because who would want to rent to somebody with credit like this? Who would want to rent to somebody that is going to have 4 bedrooms and it's 2 people? Or who's going to want to rent to somebody with cats? There are a lot of people that won't rent if you have animals. They don't want animals in the home. Who is going to rent to you if you do this like freelance thing where your money comes from like so many different offshoot sources? And my paperwork is messy, y'all. When I apply for homes, my paperwork, there are so many different avenues that I collect income from that my paperwork for renting is insane, because there are so many avenues. I have so many different streams, and it sucks getting that shit organized, but necessary. That's something that future Kloee needs to be better about. But I had all these limiting beliefs that would come up, even from like past experiences that I'd had, or what if I get into this home and at some point I can't afford the rent because it is more than I've ever paid for rent. Actually, it wasn't more than I'd ever paid, it was less, but still, there were all these limiting beliefs that came up and fears from the past. But when you decide and you confirm with yourself on something that this is what you want and this is what you're going for, it is an actually very easy decision. It is, I am getting into this home. It will work out for me because the universe wants to see me prosper. The universe wants to give me this home. My credit is going to be good enough. My paperwork is going to come together in an organized fashion because I've got it. All of the beliefs that you might have about something not working out for you, you have to turn them into beliefs that work for you. And it's no easy feat, okay? It's gonna take some retraining. This is why so many people recommend, I don't care if you're into psychology, spirituality, or just trying to be sane in a crazy world. This is why so many people recommend meditation. I feel like I finally cracked the code and I understand this now fundamentally. You don't have to meditate. Meditation is not for everyone, in my opinion, because not everybody has the attention span or lack of it to sit and do that. However, the thing that meditation teaches you, if you can learn the principle of it, it can help you change your beliefs without actually having to meditate. The thing that meditation teaches you is how to let things go and let thoughts go. When you are somebody that is obsessing about thoughts or obsessing about a belief that you need to release from you, meditation is that bitch that can actually teach you how to put that belief away and just let it go. It literally trains you to do that. And like a great example is, I do this meditation sometimes that I actually learned from an app where envision myself sitting next to a stream, and you can also physically go to a stream and just do this like physically instead of doing it in your mind. And if you see like leaves going down the stream, you imagine each of those leaves hold a thought that you want to let go of, and you see it drift away from you. I do this all the time, consciously while I'm walking around, while I'm sitting and meditating. I do this all the time when I need to let go of a thought that I'm obsessing about. And the thing to remember is it's not about being perfect. If the thought comes back up, because it probably will, if the thought comes back up, you just send it on its merry way again. That's all meditation is it's witnessing yourself have thoughts and then letting them go as you reconnect to the breath. That's all that it is. And if you can learn that fundamental like key, you don't even have to sit and meditate. You can literally do this in your day-to-day life while you're doing anything. So that's something that I feel like it's why meditation, I feel like, is actually so pushed, is because it gives you the foundation to let things go and make your life less stressful and easier, because you can do that in any moment at any given time if you already have the foundation of doing it. So just some food for thought. But when you decide, that's really what you're up against, is where are all of the beliefs that don't help you? Where are all of the beliefs that say that you can't have it? Once you decide, you have to dispel all of those beliefs and turn them into new truths. So again, I find writing this stuff down is the most helpful. So sitting down with a journal, being really intentional about whatever beliefs come up to your mind, right when you say, this is the thing that I want and I'm going to get it. What is it that comes up immediately? What fear? What feelings do you feel in your body? All of that is information for you to take down and recognize where some changes and shifts need to be made. That's all it is information that you now get to be aware of so that you can make a change. So deciding, beautiful thing. Then my favorite part of this entire exercise, the third part, is that you are going to declare. Now, this is where things get a little witchy, a little magical. I am not the creator of this. I have learned this from a couple different people, actually. I am going to first note Bahati Life. If you don't know who Bahati Life is on YouTube, she also has an apothecary that she runs. She is a witch. She is fantastic. I have loved her content for years. I will link her video if I can find it down below on creating petitions. I want to say a lot of Catherine Zankina's work, who is one of my mentors. She doesn't know me personally, but I've learned so much from her over the years. Catherine Zankina also covers this in a lot of her coursework. When you declare something, there are just different ways of going about it. But I'm going to share a really personal one with you today that I don't know if I've ever shared this online, but I do something when I know and I am set on something. Okay, when I am set, I have this notebook. I'm not a Sagittarius, but I am a Sagittarius rising, so it says Sagittarius on it. This notebook, the only thing I use it for is petitions. Once I have defined and decided, and it is a complete yes in my body that this is what I want, that I'm not coming to it because I'm afraid, because I need this to happen, because, oh my God, if it doesn't happen, oh no, oh no. It's like almost when you get that, like from defining and then doing the decision work, when you get to that place of calmly, intuitively knowing that you're ready to call this thing or this situation in, I take it to this book specifically. I don't have very many petitions in here. I'm maybe like 10 pages into this book. I don't do them every month. I only do them a handful of times a year. It's because it's like very serious work to me. It's very serious. And what I write down in this book happens. Like, I'm gonna talk to you about it. I'm gonna read you an entry, my very first entry from 2022 in this notebook. I wrote this petition when I had toured this home and I really, really, really wanted it. I really wanted to get into this home. It felt right. It felt safe. It felt like the right time. I won't lie. I do think there was some desperation as we needed to find a new place to live, but it wasn't the overarching feeling. It was this quiet confidence that I don't know how else to explain this to y'all. My husband, I've tried to explain this to as well. And he tells me that he doesn't know what it feels like to have like quiet spiritual confidence. And to me, it's like your intuition. It's your intuition when you, and I think it's called being clairsentient. I think that's right. Clairsentience, I think, is the clear feeling where you just know something. You have intense certainty about it. Your intuition is like popped and locked, okay? And you have this like intense certainty that something is right for you. I have let this feeling literally lead my entire life. It is something that I have had since before I can remember. And when I talk to my husband about it, he always is like, Kloee, I don't know what that feels like. I don't have that. Like, he just has different psychic gifts, as everybody does. There are different ones you can have. But I have this, like, I don't know what it is. It's just this, I'm so certain you couldn't convince me otherwise. There's no, it just is. It's really hard to explain if you have never experienced that. If clairsentience is not your like specific clair, it's hard to explain. But when I get to this place of like slow, quiet confidence, I know that it's time to write the petition. So I keep a special book for this. You can do it on just lined paper. It doesn't really matter what you do or choose. I keep mine in a book because these are my petitions. I keep them. But this one is from moving into this house. So I wrote dear, and then I wrote the address of the house. So I was like addressing this house. Keys in hand, I promise to bring laughter, joy, warmth, and magic into your walls. I promise never to put a nail on the logs of your structure, which, like, if y'all watch the tour on my Patreon, which if you're not supporting me on Patreon, I still love you, but it really helps me out as a creator. It keeps this podcast going. So if you want to support me, whether you want content or not, just to support me on Patreon, keeps me being able to make this podcast happen. So would really appreciate it. You get a bunch of content for signing up, like over 400 posts, extra pick a cards, astrology, personal behind the scenes content, masterclasses go there sometimes as well. But please support me on Patreon. Now, I promised in this home that I toured on Patreon when it was empty that I would never put a nail into the wood in this house because there is a bunch of the walls are like log cabin style and I don't put nails on those walls. I genuinely don't. It's like peel and stick stuff or no nails. And to this day, I've lived here for almost 2 years. I've never put a nail in there. I promise never to put a nail on the logs of your structure and to always adorn you with traditional cozy decor. People will be so charmed by you that they'll drive by during the holidays just to get a glance at your adornments. This actually happens every day. even without decorations, people slow drive past my house every day, just to get a peek because it's so beautiful. I promise to care for you and to harbor gratitude for you daily. I promise to create a safe haven within your walls. I promise to try my hand at jam for the neighbors and to learn to perfect cookies within your walls. I've done half of that. I have not made jam, and I would like to before I move out. I promise to keep you tidy and to magnify abundance. I promise to use your space to uplift consciousness, the consciousness of humanity, and to love myself and my chosen family deeply. I promise to play and learn and rest as often as I work. So true. I do this. I ask only for your shelter, your warmth, and your protection. Thank you for opening your doors for me. I love you, and I'm so grateful for you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then you sign it with your name and the date. And then I also have a note that I wrote like a year later that says, we got the house not even 2 weeks later. It was exactly as described. So I've kept up my end of the bargain, except I need to make some jam before I move out, which the apples are in season, so I could make some apple jam. I have kept up my end of the bargain with this house, and this house has done a lot for me. Like, literally, that's how, like, when you define, decide, and declare, it's a power move. You're not coming at it from this place of like, oh no, it's not going to happen. When you get to the petition part of this, you know that it will happen. And it does maybe take like writing some petitions and seeing them happen to build your confidence a little more. So like maybe do something really small first. I feel like a house is kind of a big thing. I mean, that's all subjective too. Like, why put it on the pedestal? But just wanted to point out that like that was a complete success story for me. That was something that I did to manifest this house, and it worked out exactly as I said that it would. And even reading that, I still get goosebumps. So the thing with petitions is you write it out with conviction. You can also write things in like present tense. There are so many ways to write a petition, but mine, obviously, you saw how I worded it. It's up to you. The important thing is that you speak it. When you declare it, you don't just write it. You take that petition and you read it out loud with conviction. I literally went outside and I read this shit to the stars and to nature with conviction after I wrote it. And I was just like, yeah, I am. This is what I will be doing. I said it with my whole chest and like I meant it. And I swear to you, this method works. I have proven it over and over and over again in my life. If you really want to amplify this, you can also light like an intention candle with it. I feel like that also really helps. But this is the method by which I'm going to also manifest my next home. Like, it will work. I will make a petition when I feel that quiet confidence come on, and it will work. Period. Point blank pyramid. So now that you know the step-by-step formula, I want to give you a couple of extra tidbits before we sign off for the day. So the first thing after you've done this is you're not just meant to sit on the couch and sing Kumbaya, okay? Whatever it is that you're wanting to bring into your life, you need to ask yourself immediately, what are 3 things that you could do to push the needle forward today? Today, okay? So I'm manifesting a new home. If I was invested in this right now and I had written my petition, 3 things I would do right away. I would visualize my day in my new home, wherever that might be. I would visualize what my day-to-day will look like, what kind of furniture is around me, what kind of textures, what are the smells, what does the layout look like, what am I doing, how am I feeling? I'm going to visualize that for at least 20 minutes. Then I would go online and I would start looking for homes in the area that I think I might want to go. Then I would maybe call up a realtor and ask for help, or I would set a day in my calendar to go out and scout homes, and then when that day comes, actually go. Because that's the thing. The universe also needs to know and see how serious you are. If you're serious, you will get to work on it immediately, no matter what it is. If you want your dream body, what are 3 things you could do today that would push that needle forward? Could you do a workout? Could you change your dinner to something more consciously healthy, right? What are 3 things you could do today that will push the needle forward, that you can commit to, that are doable? You know, don't be like, oh, I want to manifest $1 million. And you're like, oh, I'm going to bring in half of that today, you know, but like how? You need to be, I don't want to say like be realistic, because I think being Delulu is the Salulu, but I feel like if you can actually do tangible actions that push the needle forward, it also helps you to commit to yourself and feel really good about what you're creating in your life. And honestly, the more you commit to those needle pushing things every day, the faster that intention is going to come in because the universe rewards action. Sometimes I feel like the universe also rewards lack of action if that's something that you're trying to manifest is like more rest. So like, do what it is that you're calling in. But that's my main point is like, what can you do today? What can you commit to today? And then the next thing I want to mention just before we go is act as if getting what you want will not change you. Meaning like act as if getting what you want, like, okay, for example, when I moved into this house, I thought that in order to manifest waterfront property, I was going to be like, for lack of better words here, I'm just speaking from my own experience. I'm not trying to be fat phobic. I thought I was going to be like a size 2. Okay. I thought I was going to be a size 2. I thought I would have all these healthy relationships. I thought I would be a certain kind of physical person before getting here. And so when I got here, it was really disheartening when that wasn't the truth because I hadn't worked on it. So if you're trying to call something into your life, obviously if you're doing a dream body, that what I just said isn't going to apply. You're going to have to move towards that. But let's say you want to manifest a new home. Don't imagine yourself in the home as somebody other than you are right now. Don't imagine yourself as a size 2 with hair past your ass if you're not somebody that has that right now in the moment, because it's going to mess you up. You're going to get that dream actualized and then you're going to go, oh shit, I'm not this kind of person. Why does this feel bad? So basically, like, take it off the pedestal. Don't put it so far into the future that you are a completely different and transformed person once you manifest it, because you'll break your own heart that way. I promise. When you get what you actually want and it doesn't change you like that, it'll break your own heart. Sometimes you need to break your own heart so you can actually make change, but I'm trying to save you from that. Now, the next thing is plan to fail. And the reason why I say this is because when you actually plan to fail and decide what you're going to do, well, I say fail with big air quotes because the only reason that you would fail is if you didn't try again. Like getting down and falling down and staying down is what failure is to me. That is true failure, is deciding not to get back up. But if you get back up every time, you're never really failing. But when you get off track from this goal, from this thing that you're trying to manifest, you need to have a plan for how you will bounce back. There is one thing that sets aside people that are successful versus people that aren't, and it is how quickly you get back to what you're trying to intentionally bring into your life. How quickly, when you are set off course, are you able to get back to it? How quickly after you cry about it, have a minute, do what you got to do, splash some face on your water, splash some face on your water. No. Splash some water on your face. How quickly can you get back to doing what you were trying to do? How quickly can you get back into the mindset of, yes, I can and I am? How quickly? And if it takes a couple of days, that's all right. It's no big thing. But the smaller that gap is, the better time you're going to have and the faster you're going to bring something in. So, and it's not about chasing. You're not meant to be chasing anything. Do what feels good. Do the actions that make sense. But that's my main point though, is ask yourself right now, when you're doing this work, defining, deciding, and declaring, when you get off track, what are you going to do to call yourself back? So for myself, I'll give you the example. If I start to let all these limiting beliefs crop up in my head that go, oh my gosh, my credit's still not in the best shape. Who is going to put me in my next home? How am I going to get there? How am I going to afford this move right now? All of these beliefs start skyrocketing through my mind and making me anxious and feeling like I can't have what I want. The point is, how can I connect back to, it doesn't matter, the universe has my back. None of those things matter. None of those things matter. The how is not my problem. I am just meant to keep doing what I'm doing. And if I need to pivot, the universe is going to help me pivot, period. Like, how fast can I come back from that? And what can I do? Can I do a short meditation? I love Superhuman. I talk about Superhuman all the time. Is an app that I have used. I literally just hit 500 If you've ever used Superhuman, there's like an achievement section with how many you've listened to. I just completed my 500th Superhuman episode, or Superhuman activation, I guess is what they call them. I just finished number 500. Like, I use this app constantly. I'll give myself a little pep talk. I'll get back to myself, get back to what feels good. How can I change my thought process? Can I do my affirmations in power pose? Can I sit down and read a book? Can I do something that would take my mind off of it if I'm really stressing? And let me tell you also, if you're having like a bad day, it's also okay. Bad days happen to everyone. It's not something to be afraid of. If you need to take a couple days to lay down and be upset, lay down and be upset. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Just know that in a couple of days, you're going to bounce back. You're going to bounce back. You're going to get back to it. And how fast you can do it will basically tell you how quickly you can be successful in getting what you want. So, plan to fail. Plan to get off track. What are you going to do in the moment where that happens? When you don't want to? When you don't want to get up out of bed in the morning and do the things that you said you were going to do? What is something that you can commit to that's easy that will get you back on track? And last but certainly not least, before we get out of here, I'm just going to mention that everything I've talked about in this episode, if this is like hitting and you're like, I am ready to sit down, define, decide, and declare my shit, please buy my masterclass. Buy my masterclass, Vision Board to Destiny. It is the masterclass that single-handedly will walk you through this same thing. Like, it is the masterclass that if you are struggling to get what you want out of life, you're like, when I tell you, when I designed Vision Board to Destiny, I was at a point in my life where, and it didn't get made for a long time, like it sat in my notes app for a really long time. But when I designed Vision Board to Destiny, because I use my own masterclass and my own workbook all the time on myself, when I designed that, I was like crying on the bathroom floor. Like, I was so lost, so askew, did not know what I was doing with my life, did not know what I wanted out of life, was really confused. And it was from that masterclass was born. Because I was like, what can I do that's going to get me back on track and in alignment with what I want and in alignment with my goals? Even if you're not a vision board person, the vision board is such a minimal part of that masterclass. The magic happens in the workbook. The magic happens in the workbook that comes with that masterclass that I believe you can only get through my website. The masterclass workbook doesn't come with like the Patreon video. So get the masterclass on my website, KhloeTaylor.com. It's called Vision Board to Destiny. It will literally help you do all of what I've just talked about. So definitely check that out. And also, besties, I am designing some freebies for you. A few, actually, because I could not decide on just one. I'm designing some freebies for you right now. So please make sure that you're on my email list so that you can know when that happens. I'll tell you here too, but like, you get notifications when I drop readings, like when I offer readings. Email and Patreon always get that information first. Patreon also gets discounts, but my email list is like where you get access to everything, where you get told about everything. And I feel like I don't talk about it enough, and I don't tell y'all to sign up for that. And I'm not the kind of person that like spams your inbox. I genuinely put out like a handful of emails a month, if that sometimes. So I'm not like every day going to be sending you messages. But please get on my email list. You can get on there at KhloeTaylor.com. I'll try to find a way to link it for you down below if I can. But in any case, get on my email list if you're ever like, when are you stocking new readings? Where can I get this? Where can I get that? Do you have a discount code for blank? Email list. And thank you so much for tuning in. I love this podcast. It is such a labor of love. If you listen to this entire thing, please tell me down below what topics you would want me to cover in the future for the podcast, because I haven't done that in a minute, just taken like information from y'all. Also, this past week, or a couple weeks ago, I opened a broadcast channel on Instagram, and I've really been loving sharing like cat pictures of my cats and just like vibing with y'all in this cute little community. There's like less than 300 of us, and it's really sweet. We also have a Discord if you want to join that. You can follow me on Instagram. I'm at Kloee Taylor, as well as Threads. And join my Patreon. You already know the drill. I already talked to you about it. Check out my courses on my website, as well as book a private reading with me. And I think that's everything. Oh, girl, how am I going to forget about tarot, smut, or self-transformation? Excuse me. Oh my gosh, my phone isn't in here. I've been keeping technology away from me while I work. I wonder if my watch... Pick a number. Oh, pick a number between 1 and 3.
It's 1.
It's 1. So tarot. All right, cool. I have a tarot deck right in front of me. I'm just going to randomly select a card. Ooh, we got rehabilitation. All right, rehabilitation. What this says to me is, honestly, everything I've talked about with you today, you need to quiet down the noise. You need to take a moment, turn your phone off after you listen to this, or at least put it on like airplane mode. Turn your TV off, turn your computer off, your iPad, take your watch off if you've got one on. Quiet all of the noise and give yourself some time to really consider what I just talked about with you. Because in the age of information, I know you. I know myself too. I'm guilty of this too. You're going to move on to the next video and forget everything I just said. And like, what was even the point of listening? Be a little more intentional today about that. And basically, take some time. Get yourself a journal. Get a pen and a paper. If you must be on your phone and you use like a digital something, put your phone on airplane mode and use the notes app in your phone. And ask yourself what you learned from this episode. What can you define, decide, and declare in your life? That is where the magic will happen, is when you stop consuming and start creating. And I feel like this card really called all of us out today. So best case, if you can go out in nature and do this with a journal, you're going to get the craziest insights without having all that distraction around you. We live in the age of information, and most of us are constantly listening or consuming, or I'm, like I said, I'm guilty of this too. I'm not perfect. And being more intentional and taking time out for you is how you're going to gain that clarity. So I would just say with rehabilitation, if you want to reclaim your peace, I would turn off the noise and I would go outside today. And if you're not really a nature person or you don't want to go outside, just turn all your electronics off, put them in another room for a little bit, just an hour. Spend some time with yourself, just breathing and thinking and being with you, being a human being. And that is what I have for you today with the tarot. So thank you so much for tuning in. Please do not forget, when you stand on your own authenticity, you empower everyone around you to do the same. And I will talk to you on Thursday for a pick a card, but next week it's bleed week. So it's moon time week. So there will be no episode next Sunday. I will see you the following Sunday for another podcast episode. All right. I love you. Bye.